Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Tanvi Taneja. Coming up in the next hour. Multilateralism and Myanmar conflict dominate discussions at 20th East Asia Summit in Kuala Lumpur. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar says multipolarity is not just here to stay, but to grow. Donald Trump gets royal welcome in Japan before meeting new Prime Minister Sane Takaichi. Nikkei 225 index crosses 50,000 for the first time as investors cheered progress in US-China trade talks. Donald Trump denounces Russia testing nuclear-powered cruise missile, while Vladimir Putin hosts North Korea's foreign minister, hails deepening Pyongyang ties. Cameroon's president and world's oldest head of the state, Paul Biya, wins 8th term at 92. His rival, Tichiroma, rejects Biya's re-election as a masquerade. And Cyclone Montha brews over Bay of Bengal, expected to intensify into a severe cyclonic storm by Tuesday morning. Red alert in Indian southeastern states of Andhra Pradesh and Odisha. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar, addressing the 20th ASEAN East Asia Summit in Kuala Lumpur on Monday, highlighted that 2026 will be observed as the ASEAN-India Year of Maritime Cooperation. Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim urged Asia-Pacific leaders to choose dialogue over coercion, balance over binaries, and cooperation over confrontation at a time of sharpening rivalry between the United States and China. The Myanmar conflict and multilateralism took center stage at the 20th ASEAN East Asia Summit in Kuala Lumpur on Monday. Speaking to the gathered leaders, Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim encouraged member nations to continue their cooperation in addressing regional and global challenges.
We'll continue to advocate for dialogue over coercion, balance over binaries, cooperation over confrontation. We affirm our stand on global peace and security, for multilateralism and international law.
India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar, in his address, also reiterated commitment to multilateralism. Delivering India's national statement, Jaishankar said, "Multipolarity is not just here to stay, but to grow." Jaishankar also echoed the growing concerns of supply chain reliability and market access and the constriction on energy trade. He also said that India remains strongly committed to further strengthen maritime cooperation in line with the ASEAN outlook on the Indo-Pacific and shared commitment to the 1982 United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. He highlighted that 2026 will be observed as the ASEAN-India Year of Maritime Cooperation. Minister Jaishankar proposed an East Asia Summit Maritime Heritage Festival to be held in the ancient port of Lothal in Gujarat. Jaishankar expressed India's intent to host the 7th East Asia Summit Conference on Maritime Security Cooperation. Also, India's zero tolerance for the continued threat posed by terrorism was also put forth, with the minister adding that the right to defend can never be compromised. In what could be a setback for restoring democracy in Myanmar, the Southeast Asia ASEAN bloc will not send observers to Myanmar's elections in December, diplomatic sources said on Monday. Myanmar's junta ended emergency rule in Myanmar in July this year, promising to hold elections in December this year, even as the civil war rages. The planned vote has been denounced by international monitors as a facade to legitimize junta's 2021 coup. Asked about the election, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres urged all to find a credible path back to civilian government in Myanmar.
I don't think anybody believes that those elections will be free and fair. I don't think anybody believes those elections will contribute to the solution of the problems of Myanmar. I reiterate my call for an immediate end to the violence, a genuine commitment to inclusive dialogue, and a credible path back to civilian rule, starting with the swift release of all those arbitrarily detained. The United Nations fully supports the ASEAN 5-point consensus.
There are internal divisions among ASEAN states, as per sources, over how to balance the principle of non interference in Myanmar with the need for action. Amid all this, Myanmar civilians demand justice. Tanvi Taneja for DD India. Our cooperation. The leaders also exchanged perspectives on the global situation and the Indo-Pacific cooperation. The conversation reflected the strength and warmth of India-Japan special strategic and global partnership. The External Affairs Minister, in a social media post, shared a photo of his meeting with the Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese on the sidelines of the 20th East Asia Summit in Kuala Lumpur. And we are now joined by Ambassador Manju Seth, former senior Indian diplomat on the show. Welcome, ma'am, to DD India. Malaysian Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim has called on the East Asia Summit leaders to reaffirm their commitment to, among other things, multilateralism to address regional and global challenges. Why is multilateralism so important in today's world, in your view?
You know, the churn that has geopolitical, geoeconomic, trade, churn and turmoil that we see around the world, and including the wars, the conflicts. Of course, there seems a temporary peace in Gaza, but still not complete peace. And I think the situation has deteriorated somewhat in Ukraine, Russia war also. So things are not what they, what they could be and should be. So in this, and with unilateralism of the US especially becoming, quite unpredictable. It is important that countries form multilateral, multipolar, not form, but be in these multipolar and multilateral organizations and strengthen them so that they are able to put forth their points of view instead of being, especially by the developed world. The developing world particularly needs multipolarity and multilateralism much more than the Western world. And I think because the interests of the developing world, there's a lot of congruence and there's a lot of commonality. So they would, if they work together, yes, much more can be achieved with one voice, like as we have seen in G20, as we are seeing now at the ASEAN Summit and the East Asia Summit, which comprises the ASEAN members and other countries, so 9 other countries. So I think all this talk, India has been a strong votary of multipolarity and multilateralism, and now the fact that there's so many, lots of heads of government and state have come for this, and the importance of the region has increased manyfold in the last few years, and particularly now in the way the world is going through change, through unpredictability and conflict. The trade regime is completely overturned, and the US's unilateral kind of tariff war, as it's termed, as it's labeled, is creating problems for every single country. And for friends and foes alike, but particularly more for the developing countries. So I think multipolarity and multilateralism have to be strengthened and are the way forward.
Okay. India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar, speaking at the East Asia Summit, emphasized the growing concerns of supply chain reliability and market access and the constriction of energy trade. Now, do you see these 3 issues as just a passing concern or a worrisome issue in the longer term?
Absolutely, I think it's a worrisome issue given the asymmetries in the supply chains, and again as we saw China holding back some of the critical minerals and critical magnets required by other countries, and other countries, the US holding back its semiconductor supplies to China, chip supplies. So I think definitely supply chain disruption has been very, very strong ever since COVID. We have seen this happening, and I think supply chain reliability is extremely important. Market access, I think, is again going to be a problem because countries are becoming becoming more closed rather than open. The WTO was meant to make, the world trade, so to speak, was, to be on certain to follow certain regulations, be rule based, etc. But I think nowadays nobody seems to be, the bigger countries, at least the bigger developed world, seem to be not following what they themselves, sort of established. So the rules-based order, the rules-based trading order has all been sort of turned on its head. Energy, again, we can see is another area where there's a lot of problems countries are likely to face with, uncertainties about, where they are headed, and, on the one hand, promoting renewable energy, but also promoting traditional, fossil fuels, fossil-based fuels. So I think these concerns are not short-term. They're going to be there around, at least in the foreseeable future.
Okay, External Affairs Minister Jaishankar's address at the summit also highlighted India's strong commitment to further strengthening maritime cooperation in line with the ASEAN outlook on the Indo-Pacific. What are the various areas of maritime cooperation we are looking at here, and why are they increasingly important, including to India?
I think overall, if we see the way, the way things have evolved, especially if you look at the South China Sea, the Indian Ocean, everywhere there is a kind of, attempt to control the maritime areas and to misuse, to misuse their power in the various areas. And maritime security has to be ensured to ensure the free movement of trade and trading and ships, etc. These sea lines of communication can easily be disrupted by any country. And I think that more and more is becoming, and including, the underwater cables that are there, and regional security, and, with as AI and modern warfare methods are evolving very rapidly, and the submarine submarine technologies and everything is evolving so rapidly that the maritime domain has become extremely prone to being misused and attacking or harming security of a third country, of any other country. So I think it's become very important that maritime security be ensured, and for that ASEAN, where most of them are, in the Indo-Pacific region, in the South China Sea, and for India, which has a huge maritime border, coastline. So it is very important to ensure freedom of navigation on the high seas, including our coastline, and to follow again, as I said, a rules-based order, which everybody now seems to be talking about, but not. It seems to be paying more lip service rather than actually, ensuring that we have a rules-based order and the UN clauses followed, and everything is as it was never fully, rules-based in the sense not everybody was always fully, implementing it, but still, overall, there was a system in place which has been upended now by different countries, including by China, including by the actions of the US. So I think it is very important that countries come together once again, and especially the developing world, to reinforce and to ensure that there is implementation of all these rules and laws which ensure maritime security, so that trade is not disrupted, freedom of navigation is not hampered by any one country. So I think all countries need to work together and ensure that, ASEAN, of course, but also in the, the other countries in the, as you know, Quad was being promoted at one time very strongly, but other countries in the region, Japan, Australia, the other Pacific nations, all of them, including India, need to work together to ensure that maritime security in that region as well as in the Indian Ocean is safeguarded.
Okay. On that note, we thank you, Manju Sethji, for being with us on DD India News. Still to come on the show. Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal says India and Germany are taking forward their strategic partnership with renewed momentum. Russia claims to have downed 193 Ukrainian drones overnight. And 30 people killed in fresh Pakistan-Afghanistan border clashes.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy, always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I am Tanvi Taneja. India and the EU are taking forward their strategic partnership with renewed momentum. Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal met EU Commissioner for Trade and Economic Security, Maro Sefcovic. Their discussions focused on giving impetus to the India-EU FTA negotiations. They also reiterated their shared commitment to achieving a swift, balanced and mutually beneficial agreement. Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal, during his visit to Brussels, also held talks with Germany's Federal Minister for Foreign Affairs, Johann Wadephul, focusing on areas of mutual growth and cooperation. Both leaders reaffirmed their commitment to fast-tracking the India-EU Free Trade Agreement aimed at deepening trade and investment ties. The United States and China have agreed on a range of contentious points as part of a trade deal ahead of a key meeting between leaders Donald Trump and Xi Jinping in South Korea later this week. The US and Chinese officials said that in addition to rare earths, they discussed trade expansion, the US fentanyl crisis, US port entrance fees, and the transfer of TikTok to US ownership control.
Top Chinese and US officials on Sunday hashed out the framework of a trade deal for US President Donald Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping to decide on later this week that would pause steeper American tariffs and Chinese rare earth export controls. After 2 days of talks in Malaysia wrapped up on Sunday, a Chinese official said the two sides reached a preliminary consensus on topics including export controls, fentanyl and shipping levies.
The economic and trade teams from both China and the United States met in Kuala Lumpur, with both sides paying close attention to economy and trade on the agenda and making progress with in-depth and frank discussions and exchanges. There were numerous items on the agenda, including export controls on both sides, the issue of reciprocal tariffs going a step further for an extended period of time, the issue of fentanyl tariffs, and cooperation on banning the production of fentanyl.
US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said Trump's threat of 100% tariffs on Chinese goods is effectively off the table. The US expects China to delay implementation of its rare earth minerals and magnets licensing regime by a year while the policy is reconsidered.
So this was the fifth meeting that I've had with my Chinese counterpart, the Vice Premier, Hu Lifeng, and we covered a wide range of issues, and I think we've reached a substantial framework for the two leaders who will meet in Korea next Thursday. So, on the table, the president had given me maximum leverage when he threatened 100% tariffs if the Chinese imposed their rare earth global export controls. So I think we have averted that so that the tariffs will be averted. And we have a regular quarterly meeting with the Chinese.
Trump himself predicted a good deal with China as he spoke with reporters on the sidelines of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations Summit in Kuala Lumpur, saying he expected additional leader-level follow-up meetings in China and the US.
I think a complete deal. I want our farmers to be taken care of, and he wants things also. We're going to be talking about fentanyl, of course. You know, fentanyl is killing a lot of people. It comes from China. And we'll be talking about that. We'll be talking about a lot of things. I think we have a really good chance of making a very comprehensive deal.
Trump and Xi are due to meet on Thursday on the sidelines of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit in South Korea. China has yet to confirm that the two leaders will meet. Bureau Report, DD India.
US President Donald Trump received a royal welcome by Japan's Emperor Naruhito on Monday as he arrived at the Imperial Palace on the second leg of his Asia tour. He will also meet Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi, the country's first female Prime Minister, on Tuesday. The meeting is considered a major diplomatic test for Takaichi, who just assumed office on October 21st. The two leaders are expected to focus on strengthening the Japan-US alliance and addressing key security challenges. US President Donald Trump said on Monday the announcement by his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin of a nuclear-powered cruise missile test was not appropriate. Earlier on Sunday, Russia successfully tested its nuclear-powered Burevestnik cruise missile, a nuclear-capable weapon Moscow says can evade any defense system and will move towards deploying the weapon. Russia's top general Valery Gerasimov, chief of the General Staff of Russia's armed forces, told Putin that the missile traveled 14,000 kilometers and was in the air for about 15 hours when it was tested on October 21st. Meanwhile, Russian President Vladimir Putin on Monday said that Moscow's ties with North Korea are developing as planned, as he hosted North Korean Foreign Minister Cho Son-hui at the Kremlin on Monday. Cho conveyed warm greetings from leader Kim Jong-un and spoke of the spiritual closeness between the two countries during her earlier talks with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. The visit is the latest in a flurry of diplomatic exchanges between the two countries and comes just days after Kim pledged to advance military ties with Moscow.
We talked in detail in Beijing about our relationship and prospects for development. Everything is going according to plan.
Russia's defense ministry said on Monday that it had downed 193 Ukrainian drones overnight, with local authorities reporting 1 person killed and 5 others injured in the attack. The governor of the border region of Bryansk, Alexander Bogomolz, said on Telegram that a minibus had been struck in the village of Pogar, killing the driver and injuring 5 passengers. Russian forces in total downed 47 drones in Bryansk, which borders Ukraine, as well as 40 in the Moscow region, with most of those headed towards the capital, according to the defense ministry. Russian aviation watchdog Rosaviatsia said that 2 of Moscow's 4 airports, the Domodedovo Airport and the smaller Zhukovsky Airport, were briefly closed for safety reasons. On to Africa now. Cameroon's President Paul Biya has won the country's presidential election with 53.66% of the vote, according to official results announced on Monday by the Constitutional Council. Protests have flared in several cities after partial results reported by local media showed Biya was on course to win. The government has rejected opposition accusations of irregularities and urged people to wait for the result. Cameroon's Interior Minister Paul Atanga said on Saturday that arrests had been made in connection with what he described as an insurrectional movement, though he did not say who had been detained or how many. Paul Biya is the world's oldest serving ruler and has been in power in Cameroon since 1982. Another 7-year term could keep him in power until he is nearly 100. Argentine President Javier Milei's party cruised to victory in mid-term legislative elections as voters overwhelmingly backed his free market reforms and deep austerity measures. After the results, Milei said that his party's big victory in the nation's mid-term elections marked a turning point and vowed to pursue reforms his government still considers necessary. He added that voters had shown their desire to irreversibly change the path forward for South America's number 2 economy. The elections were the first national test of Milei's support since he won office 2 years ago on a promise to revive the long-ailing Argentine economy through a series of painful reforms. According to a statement by the US Navy, a helicopter and a Super Hornet crashed during the 2 separate incidents in the South China Sea, with all 5 crew members safely recovered by search and rescue teams. The statement mentioned that the helicopter crashed at around 6:45 hours GMT and the 3 crew members were safely rescued. A separate incident at 7:15 hours GMT involved the Super Hornet, flown by Strike Fighter Squadron VFA-22, which also crashed during operations. Both pilots ejected safely and were recovered. Meanwhile, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson on Monday said that it would be willing to provide humanitarian assistance to the United States after 2 US Navy aircraft crashed into the South China Sea during military exercises. Direct flights between India and China have officially resumed after a hiatus of over 5 years. Indigo's A320 aircraft from Kolkata landed in the southern Chinese city of Guangzhou on Monday. Indigo will undertake daily non-stop flights between the 2 locations. Guangzhou in southern China is well known as an important global business hub for manufacturing and export logistics. The resumption of connectivity from India caters to the growing demand for passenger and cargo movement between India and China, unlocking new opportunities for trade, investment and tourism. Building on this expansion, Indigo will also begin flights between Delhi and Guangzhou from 10th of November this year, further strengthening its presence in this important trade and travel corridor. Indigo is among the first airlines to restart services following the COVID-19 suspension between the air routes of India and China. And next we take a look at other stories making news around the world. 5 Pakistani soldiers and 25 terrorists were killed in clashes near the Afghanistan border, the deadliest fighting in years, as Islamabad and Kabul hold talks in Turkey's Istanbul to ease tensions. Thousands of people in colorful costumes and skull-like makeup gathered on Monday for Mexico City's annual Catarina Parade, a tribute to one of the most famous symbols of the Day of the Dead festival. The holiday starts on October 31st and honors those who have passed away, especially those who died in accidents. And hundreds of people attended the opening ceremony of the Intangible Cultural Heritage Exhibition 2025 in Pyongyang, North Korea on Monday. The event featured Siram, a traditional form of folk wrestling, musical performances and taekwondo. You're watching Did India News are still to come on the show. An expert take on India's leadership role as the 8th session of the International Solar Alliance Assembly begins in New Delhi. President of Seychelles, Dr. Patrick Hermine, speaks exclusively to DD India on the first day of assuming charge. And India's Election Commission to conduct special intensive revision in 12 states and union territories. Lumpur. Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Tanvi Taneja. A reminder of the headlines we're tracking at this hour. Multilateralism and Myanmar conflict dominate discussions at the 20th East Asia Summit in Kuala Lumpur. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar says multipolarity is not just here to stay, but to grow. Donald Trump gets a royal welcome in Japan before meeting new Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi. Nikkei 225 index crosses 50,000 mark for the first time as investors cheered the progress made in US-China trade talks. Donald Trump denounces Russia testing nuclear-powered cruise missile, while Putin hosts North Korea's foreign minister, hails deepening Pyongyang ties. Cameroon's president and world's oldest head of the state, Paul Biya, wins 8th term at 92. His rival, Tichiroma, rejects Biya's re-election as a masquerade. And Cyclone Monta brews over Bay of Bengal, expected to intensify into a severe cyclonic storm by Tuesday morning. Red alert in India's southeastern states of Andhra Pradesh and Odisha. Eighth session of the International Solar Alliance Assembly aims to accelerate global adoption of solar energy and deepen international cooperation for a sustainable future. At the heart of this gathering lies India's rapidly expanding role in renewable energy, marked by significant achievements and bold ambitions. A report.
New Delhi is abuzz as the 8th session of the International Solar Alliance Assembly commenced today at Bharat Mandapam, gathering high-level delegations from 124 countries and over 40 ministers for 4 days of discussions centered on deepening international cooperation and accelerating solar energy transitions. The Assembly, which is recognized as the ISA's supreme decision-making forum, is set to drive the global agenda for a clean, sustainable future through focused action on solar finance, technology, and capacity building. India's leadership is in sharp focus, with President Draupadi Murmu scheduled to deliver the first ever presidential keynote to the ISA Assembly, reinforcing India's commitment to the founding vision of One World, One Sun, One Grid, and showcasing the nation's recent achievements in solar power deployment. India's progress in achieving 50% of its installed capacity from non-fossil sources 5 years ahead of target and ranking as the world's third largest solar producer stands as an example for other developing countries. A landmark feature of this session is the unveiling of a multi-nation joint solar power bidding platform by ISA, designed to unite member countries in securing competitive solar cum storage projects and also harnessing cross-border opportunities at scale. Strategic discussions will address financing for underserved regions, innovations in solar technology, and expanded use in sectors like agriculture and health, targeting sustainable development and energy security for all. ISA, which was launched in 2015 by India and France, now counts 125 member and signatory countries working across continents to mobilize investments, reduce solar technology costs, and promote harmonized standards and policies. With global momentum behind its mission, unlocking $1 trillion in solar investments by 2030, and transforming energy access for billions, this assembly sets a blueprint for coordinated international action in the race to achieve carbon neutrality and universal clean energy. Bureau Report, DD India.
And to discuss India's leadership role at the ISA International Solar Alliance session, we have with us Surinder Ahuja, CEO Sunmaster Agri Photovoltaics, a firm in the solar EPC sector. And we are also joined by Shubhamoy Bhattacharjee, Senior Economic Journalist. Thank you, gentlemen, for being with us. Coming to you, Mr. Ahuja first. India has achieved the remarkable feat of deriving 50% of its installed capacity from non-fossil sources 5 years ahead of target and now ranks as the world's third largest solar producer. What are the lessons that other countries could learn from India's success story?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and good evening to you. Today, as the world stands at a crossroads between prosperity and the planet, and Delhi has become the stage for one of the most significant global movement of our time, the International Solar Alliance. The International Solar Alliance was born from a visionary idea: the sunlight and the most abundant and democratic source of energy can unite nations and powers a cleaner, fairer world. Co-founded by the India and the France in 2025 during the historical Paris uh, climate conference. You see, the India has already achieved 50% of the renewable energy targets with the dedication of our Prime Minister Modi. As our Prime Minister sets the vision and mission to achieve 500 gigawatt of the renewable power by 2030, we had achieved 50% of it way ahead than our targets. So the ISA was launched with a bold mission to bring together countries rich in sunshine to cooperate on solar energy, reduce dependency on fossil fuels, and ensure affordable power for all. Today, ISA has grown into a global alliance of more than 125 member countries, cutting across continents, culture, and economics. All are working with one shared brief that the power of sun can drive sustainable development and combat climate change. Delhi offers more than just administrative convenience, it offers a spirit of collaboration. The city has become the nerve center of solar diplomacy, where ministers, scientists, and entrepreneurs from across the world meet to discuss technology, finance, and policies, solutions that can accelerate the solar revolution. The Global Alliance from Delhi is not just about solar panels and power plants, it's about hope, equity, and shared progress. It's about lighting up homes, empowering women, transforming agriculture through solar irrigation, solar agrivoltaics, and helping small Iceland nations fight rising seas with clean, resilient energy systems. Yeah.
Okay. Coming to you, Shubhamoy, International Solar Alliance launched in 2015 by India and France intends to unlock $1 trillion in solar investments by 2030. How far are we from achieving that goal at this point in time?
Actually, it's not even fair to say how far we are, because we are so close to the to the goals that we're talking about. And as Mr. Ahuja was talking about, it is a question of what are the further goals that India will be setting. So, the committee, the Conference of Parties, which happens every year, which brings together the countries of the world to take renewed pledges every year on how many, what are the next steps that we're taking. It's being clearly expected that India will now sort of, further push ahead beyond the Paris Accord, where we had said we will be having 500 gigawatts by 2030. We have said we are already there. And there's no doubt now that India will be reaching and will be overshooting the target. The question is that what does India further want to do? Because in terms of solar, we are now really not just at the top, but we are, setting the agenda in terms of where exactly the world would want to go. And considering that there are lots of countries which are actually not reneging on their solar pledges, on the renewable energy pledges, India is actually saying that we are totally distinct from that. We are clearly on our way to not only fulfill our pledge, but also to move even further. And that's where the remarkable thing about the Indian journey. Yeah.
Indeed. Mr. Ahuja, at your experience at the Sun Master, what would you say are the main impediments or obstacles to faster adoption of solar energy across the world?
You see, if you are talking about the challenges for adoption of the solar energy is the connectivity with the grid, and the major point is the finance and reliability on the small island like African governments. If the investor want to be invest in it, so there will be no stabilization in the government schemes and all. These are some of the key points where in the African countries and in the South American countries, the solar is not taking up. But in India, everything is stable, and now we have green corridors to evacuate the power from one source to another source. So these type of the mitigations are not here in India. That's why India is overshooting their targets before the deadlines.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Ahuja Shubhamoy Bhattacharjee, for being with us and discussing India's leadership role as this 8th session of the International Solar Alliance continues in New Delhi. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, let's move on now. On the first day since assuming charge, President of Seychelles, Dr. Patrick Hermine, spoke exclusively to DD India's Jayanti Jha on a whole gamut of relations and the island country's commitment to peace and prosperity, maritime security and sustainable development and the robust ties it shares with India. Here is a DD India exclusive.
India and Seychelles, connected geographically by the Indian Ocean, have a very special partnership that extends across sectors ranging from maritime security to people ties to renewable energy and beyond. Today, we have with us a very special guest joining us, Dr. Patrick Hermine, the 6th President of Seychelles, for a very special conversation on the relationship that the two nations share. Sir, thank you for joining us on the first day since assuming office as President of Seychelles, and welcome to DD India.
Thank you.
Sir, as the 6th President of Seychelles, what will be your top priorities for your country in the coming few years?
Oh, well, quite a lot. Our biggest problem right now is the drug problem, which is more or less an existential threat for our country. It is reckoned that 10% of our youth, they are on heroin or some hard drugs, and that is affecting our workforce. Even our fertility rate, which has not gone above 1.7 for several years now. The second issue is to ensure proper delivery by government. The civil service has been quite lackluster over the last 5 years, and we have other issues like reinvigorating tourism, which has seen a downslide of some sort. Of course, our health and education, the standards have gone down quite drastically. And yes, we need to transform our country and prepare Seychelles for the next level of development, which includes science, technology, engineering, and of course artificial intelligence. So we're preparing ourselves to make Seychelles the Dubai of the Indian Ocean.
So Seychelles is very active at both the regional organization level as well as in international fora. How do you see that role evolve under your presidency, especially with regard to promoting peace, maritime security as well as sustainable development in the Indian Ocean region?
Yes, we will continue more or less on the same path as the previous governments. We firmly believe in sustainable development, especially when it comes to the blue economy. Maritime security is very important for us, hence the whole saga surrounding Assumption, which I'm sure you must have heard of. Otherwise, Seychelles will always be conservative when it comes to environment, but because we depend a lot on tourism, we also have to strike the right balance between tourism development and conservation.
Right. So India has been a long-term development partner for Seychelles in sectors like health, education, capacity building. How do you see India's role going forward in alignment with your national priorities?
Definitely. One, capacity building. As you know, India has got very good universities, very good professionals. Even with our military, we have very close ties with India. So yes, we will not depend, but we will strengthen that relationship when it comes to capacity building. There is an absolute need for that. In fact, we spoke about the possibility of India building a hospital here in Seychelles and Indian specialists coming to work in this country. With regards to education, I've already talked about university level education, but of course, primary, secondary, we will seek the support of the Indian government to assist us with teachers, which, as you know, the number is fast decreasing in our country because, there's a lot of overturn and the attrition rate is quite high. and we depend a lot on foreigners.
Okay. Sir, India and Seychelles have a very close partnership that spans centuries. What is it that keeps drawing the two nations back to each other time and again? And where do you see this relationship going forward?
Yeah, geographically we're quite close. Long history, over 250 years, and a lot of Seychellois, they are of Indian heritage, significant diaspora. I wouldn't say even diaspora, Seychellois. They are originally from India, although they do not belong to the Indian diaspora per se, but they have Indian blood. So the ties is very strong. I mean, it's gone a long way since independence. India was one of the first countries to recognize us.
So, Vice President of India, C.P. Radhakrishnan, was in Seychelles for a 2-day visit. He attended your swearing in. He later also interacted with you, where he conveyed the greetings of the Indian people to you. How was that interaction for you?
Oh, very significant. Significant because it was the Vice President of India. It's not anybody. India, as you know, is a regional powerhouse, and the presence of India, a former inauguration, personally meant a lot.
Thank you, sir, for joining us on DD India for this very special interaction.
Thank you.
That was Dr. Patrick Ermini, the President of Seychelles, speaking to DD India about the enduring legacy of the India-Seychelles friendship. With camera person Jaishankar and Saurabh Shukla in Seychelles, this is Jayanti Jha for DD India.
The Election Commission of India announced that a special intensive revision of electoral rules will be conducted in 12 states and union territories under the second phase. Chief Election Commissioner Gyanish Kumar said that this revision is aimed to make electoral rules more transparent and error-free. The CEC also highlighted that the poll body received 0 appeals in the first phase of the SIR drive.
Andamans and Nicobar Island, Union Territory, State Chhattisgarh, Goa, Gujarat, Kerala, Union Territory Lakshadweep, Madhya Pradesh, Puducherry Union Territory, Rajasthan, Tamil Nadu, Uttar Pradesh, West Bengal. इन 12 राज्यों में कुल मतदाता 51 करोड़ के लगभग हैं. लगभग 5,33,000 बूथ लेवल ऑफिसर्स इस महान कार्य में अपना योगदान देंगे. लगभग 7,64,000 बूथ लेवल एजेंट्स जो पार्टीज द्वारा नामित हैं वो इसमें अपना योगदान देंगे और लगभग 10,500 EROs और लगभग 321 कलेक्टर्स. ये पूरी चुनावी कर्मियों की जो टीम है वो इस SIR की फेज 2 में कार्य करेगी और इसको सफल बनाएगी.
On the weather front now, the eastern coast of India stands on edge tonight as the powerful Cyclone Monta churns menacingly over the Bay of Bengal, inching closer to land. The southeastern states of Andhra Pradesh and Odisha are bracing for impact, with officials racing against time to move people to safety, secure essential supplies and fortify vulnerable zones. With the storm expected to make landfall on Tuesday evening, the next 24 hours could prove critical for millions living along India's eastern coastline.
Southern and southeast India are on high alert, especially the coastal states of Andhra Pradesh and Odisha, with Cyclone Monta moving closer to the eastern seaboard. It is expected to make landfall on Tuesday evening. In Andhra Pradesh, a red alert has been sounded across several districts from Kakinada to Nellore. Chief Minister Chandrababu Naidu held a high-level review meeting to assess preparedness and relief measures. Special officers will oversee evacuation, relief camps and restoration of essential services.
The general instruction for everyone who is out there is to stay inside. We are going to restrict private transportation. Already we have stopped boating and ferrying operations and beach access. So these instructions need to be strictly followed for your own safety.
Over 2,700 village and ward secretariats in high impact zones placed under special watch. with 3,200 generators deployed to ensure uninterrupted power supply. NDRF and SDRF teams have been deployed in full strength to support state authorities in rescue and relief operations. The IMD says Cyclone Monta is likely to intensify into a severe cyclonic storm before crossing the coast between Machilipatnam and Kalingapatnam on the evening of 28 October. Heavy rainfall and thunderstorms are forecast over the next 5 days, with conditions expected to ease after 29th.
It is very likely to cross Andhra Pradesh coast between Machilipatnam and Kalingapatnam around Kakinada during evening / night of tomorrow, the 28th October, as a severe cyclonic storm with a maximum sustained wind speed of 90 to 100 gusting to 110 kilometers.
Meanwhile, in Odisha, the state government has ramped up preparedness to minimize the storm's impact. A review meeting chaired by Revenue and Disaster Management Minister Suresh Pujari was attended by top officials, including the Special Relief Commissioner and DG Fire Services.
In fact, the review of the preparation of the district, of the block and at the grassroots were reviewed yesterday and day before yesterday, and foolproof preparation has already been made in all the districts, particularly the most vulnerable 8 districts, most vulnerable districts also. We had reviewed the preparedness of the district which are relatively less vulnerable.
The Odisha Fire Services Department has deployed 9 special response teams across vulnerable districts, equipped with rescue gear and lighting equipment. The NDRF has also mobilized 5 teams from its Mundali headquarters in Cuttack to Koraput, Malkangiri, Raigada, Gajapati and Kandhamal districts to strengthen ground-level response.
Odisha Fire Department has deployed 123 teams in southern range Berhampur in 8 districts, and they are fixed with their fire stations, and additional teams we have mobilized from Cuttack RDC Circle and Sambalpur RDC Circle. Total 123 teams have been deployed in entire Brahmapur RDC Circle, and they are equipped with their vehicle and high capacity dewatering pump for Brahmapur and other places.
Authorities in both states remain on alert, closely monitoring the storm's path as Cyclone Monta barrels towards the coast. Evacuation drives, power backups and rapid response teams are in place, all aimed at minimizing damage and ensuring public safety. Bureau Report, DD India.
And now news of the Chhath Puja festivities from India. On the third day of the festival, devotees offered argh to the setting sun. Thousands of faithfuls across the country gathered at river banks to offer Sandhya Argh, evening salutation to Lord Sun. Chhath Puja is celebrated with great enthusiasm and devotion across India. In Patna, Ganga Ghat saw large crowds gathering and praying at the bank. Ministers, celebrities and locals alike participated in the rituals. At Varanasi in Uttar Pradesh, people attended the third day of the Chhath Puja, offering arghya to the setting sun. In Ranchi, Jharkhand, devotees gathered at Hatiniya Talab Ghat and offered Sandhya Argh to the setting sun. Delhi Chief Minister Rekha Gupta visited Yamuna Ghat, offered prayers to the setting sun and extended wishes of the Chhath festival to all devotees. The festival of Chhath was also celebrated in Karnataka's Bengaluru. Many families created ponds at rooftops there to perform rituals of the Chhath. People offered the Sandhya Argh and prayed for peace and prosperity of all. Chhath was celebrated with great devotion and grandeur across Nepal on Monday, especially in Kathmandu and Terai regions. From Guheshwari to Gauri Ghat along the Bagmati river, thousands of devotees gathered to offer argh to the setting sun, with riverbanks beautifully lit and decorated for the occasion. President Ramchandra Paudel and Prime Minister Sushila Karki joined devotees at Kamal Pokhri to offer prayers, extending heartfelt wishes for peace and prosperity to all Nepalis. The festival concluded on a joyous note, with devotees preparing to greet the rising sun tomorrow with renewed hope and reverence. And in some sports news now, play on the first day of Chennai Open's main draw action was called off as incessant rain spoiled the organisers' multiple attempts to dry the courts. The first day matches of the WTA Chennai Open were cancelled due to heavy rain triggered by Cyclone Monta. The organisers have announced that play will resume on Tuesday, provided the weather improves. The postponed matches will be made up on day 2, and officials remain optimistic that the tournament can proceed smoothly if conditions allow. That's all for this edition of DD India News Hour. Do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. Connect with us on our different social media handles at DD India Live, and you can also download our DD India mobile app for quick news and updates on the go. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Tanvi Taneja from all of us here in New Delhi. Thank you for watching. Namaskar.